Evan Hollister, a boy like no other, club sipping beer and raising hell with his brothers.
So the Nightmare on Elm Street remake tells the rehashed, less original, and more boring story of a knife-fingered man with burned skin who kills the teenagers of Springwood in their dreams. Hey everybody, how's it going? It's me, Devin Hollister, and yes, we are finally here, the final movie in the Nightmare on Elm Street review series. This has been a very long journey, very much longer than it should have been, but you know, I'm only part-time, so what more can I do? But we finally are on the last movie, which is part of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, as I just said, and now we're gonna finally talk about the remake from 2010. And the problem with this remake is, of course, nobody wanted it, okay? Nobody wanted a Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and it's just the fact that it still was in production was just, it showed how much New Line really cared about what the fans thought of the franchise. Of course, it was necessary if you're gonna make another movie of it, since Robert Englund pretty much was done after Freddy vs. Jason. So then we have the new actor, the new Freddy, and the last Freddy that we've got, because we haven't had a film since then, and Jackie Earle Haley. And while I don't hate him in his portrayal of Freddy, of course there are some issues that come with it, and of course many issues with the film. But before I even talk about those things, please leave a like and subscribe, and there is a few things that I do like about this movie, so let's get into it. The nightmare sequences, the nightmare settings, when the teenagers eventually are facing Freddy in their dreams, that whole background work, I find that very well done. Especially one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when the girl's dreaming in the middle of class. You see everybody turn to like ash and stuff. That is some sick stuff right there of how someone would suddenly just how awake in their dreams in Freddy's nightmarish world.
Wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
You really shouldn't fall asleep in class.
Now you f***ed up! You also got a cool couple of boiler scenes that of course are taken from the original movie, but in its own type of nicely done CGI way, I guess. And they're really spooky, they're really creepy, and they fit Freddy just fine. I think they did an awesome job with that background work, and I thought every time I had seen it, it looked very good. And unfortunately, the only other thing I like about this movie is Kyle Gallner as the character of Quentin Smith.
He's the Pied Piper of Hamelin. I saw it in one of my dreams. It's a story about a guy who's betrayed by a town, and he gets his revenge by taking all their children.
He was the only main character in this entire film. While of course he's not the best written character ever, I find that him and his portrayal of this certain character, I find he was the only character that I was interested in. That anything he would say, it didn't sound like it was written by AI, you know? So, I mean, good works to that actor. Kyle Gallner has been on my radar for a while because he's been on a couple horror movies lately. I saw him in Smile, and I thought he was pretty great in that movie, even though I have a problem with the ending of that film. But Kyle Gallner as Quentin Smith, I also thought was probably the other really honestly good thing I thought about this movie. Now, it's kind of been a while since I've been like this, but sometimes I just can't decide if there's a certain thing about a movie where it's good or bad, like in my opinion, obviously. And in this case, I'm gonna have to put this in the middle. Like it's kind of like a mixed kind of thing for me. And that's unfortunately going to have to be the big role of Freddy Krueger or Jackie Earle Haley. Now, I think Jackie Earle Haley is a good Freddy. I think that he portrayed him very well. There was nothing wrong with his acting. I thought every scene that we did see Freddy in, I thought he did a great job with that role. Unfortunately, he's just not Robert Englund. And you know, you watch every single Nightmare on Elm Street movie, even Freddy's Dead. There's always something about Robert Englund that just says, yes, that's Freddy. And unfortunately, and this is not Jackie Earle Haley's fault, there are just certain roles in cinema and movies where you cannot replace a single actor. Robert Englund's presence, he is Freddy Krueger. He will always be the only Freddy Krueger. And unfortunately, Jackie Earle Haley was put at a disadvancement with that. You know, and unfortunately, while I thought his Freddy was good, and unfortunately, I couldn't feel it as well as Robert Englund. And not to say that that's fair enough, because this movie is supposed to be separate from Robert Englund since it's a remake, but it doesn't feel that way. He just doesn't really shine as Freddy to me as Robert Englund does. And you know, you get a bunch of one-liners in here that just don't fit. You know, they tried to claim during the production of this movie that they tried to make him more serious because they said over time Robert Englund's got more comical, which it did. but there was still some charm to that. And unfortunately, they still tried to put in like funny one-liners in this movie. There's only a couple, but they don't work at all because, again, he just doesn't feel like Freddy to me. He's not my Freddy. Just how like Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland aren't my Spider-Man. But there are genuinely creepy scenes where Jackie Earle Haley does a good job as Freddy. My favorite scene with him is, of course, when he kills, I forgot the kid's name, but when he kills the kid who goes to jail, he wakes up in his nightmare in the boiler room and he says, "We got 6 minutes or 7 minutes left to play." I thought that was actually genuinely pretty creepy.
Why are you screaming? I haven't even cut you yet. We got 6 more minutes to play.
Now, before I talk about the things that are just really bad about this film, I just want to clearly state that I don't watch films just to pick out things one by one and just see what I really hate about it. These are things that I just genuinely notice, and anybody can just genuinely notice when they watch this movie, okay? There's a lot of problems with this film, and so let me just start off with the first main problem. A lot of original scenes, which are from the original film, are, of course, redone in this movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've had plenty of remakes, even better ones than the originals, that have done those things. But in this case, it doesn't really work out that well. You get simple scenes, you know, the bathroom shot where Freddy's sticking his claw at the bathtub between her legs, or, you know, you get other scenes as well, just kind of like that, that are taken from the original. But then you also get scenes that are from the original where they were all done practically. And in this one, you get a shit ton of CGI. Probably the worst case of the CGI was the scene where Freddy sticks his head through the walls and is like stretching out. You know, that scene was originally done with like plastic and all practical, and it looks so much better. You look at this crap, I'm like, what the heck is going on? This looks garbage. They changed a lot of things about the story that are just very uninteresting and very bold, if I might say, because originally Freddy is just a child killer. They put hints at him somewhat being a molester, but there's only hints of that, okay? Because we don't want to because we kind of like root for Freddy. We're fans of Freddy, you know what I mean? We're here to see Freddy. But the fact that in this movie, they just changed him to just straight molester, like he molested children before he became this dream demon. They just go all out with those details. It's like, okay, now we can't root for it. We don't like to watch this killer at all. We're uninterested in the movie because it's like the hints were there in the original. But he's a child killer. That's what we know him as. Now you're just completely flipping that around, and we don't like that at all. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody can agree on that part. Every single side character or main character in this movie, except for Quentin Smith, but even with him, it is so uninteresting and so cringe to watch. They say the most cringe lines in this movie. It is unbelievable because they take so many lines. They just handpicked so many lines from all the other movies, even Freddy vs. Jason, and just stuff them all into dialogue that it feels so out of place. It feels so weird. Like if you watch this movie and you just hear the same lines that they're given from other movies all put into one, all mashed together into this ugly, moldy, shitty clay, it's like, it doesn't feel right. It feels like an abomination that I just want to set on fire and just stab me in the heart for even listening or watching in the first place. And unfortunately, that pretty much goes with all the dialogue and all the script that's in this movie.
How's this for a wet dream? How's this for a wet dream?
The only reason why I like Quentin Smith so much is because he's actually witty, he has character, and he's actually bold, and he feels like a good protector. But it's just like, other than that, you get nothing. You get no flavor. You get no sense of personality with any of these characters. At least with the original, they were fun to watch being these scenes, being tormented by Freddy. With this, it's just like, it's the same shit, but even worse, especially with the CGI, the bad writing, everything. And finally, before I end this bullcrap, I want to state what is the worst part of this movie. Let me rephrase that. Who is the worst part of this movie? And that goes to Rooney Mara as Nancy. You know, the great thing about Heather Langenkamp as Nancy is that she has strong build female lead character. Of course, she starts off as a scared girl at the beginning, but you know, it's like over time, she becomes the arch nemesis of Freddy. And we see that growth with her, you know, and it's like you're actually entertained because Heather Langenkamp, she's actually passionate about the role. She actually loves playing Nancy. What do we get with Rooney Mara? She looks like she doesn't give a shit about this movie at all. She has no expression on her face. She doesn't even look like she knows where she is half the time in this movie.
I keep dreaming about children, too. Yeah, but I mean, what? We didn't go to school together until, like, 6th grade. What do you mean?
Almost every single line, except for one line at the end, she has like this most monotone like voice. And that's not Nancy at all. That's not who Nancy is. So that just tells me, I'm pretty sure that this actor, or actress, excuse me, did not care about playing this role at all. And for some reason, she ended up in it. And that just tells me, like, you put that in the mind of the producers who make this movie, and just, that's New Line for you. And by the time she actually shows some sort of emotion or anything like that, it is the most cringiest crap ever. She literally just steals the line. You know, the same line that the main character from Freddy vs. Jason gives to Freddy before she cuts off the head. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, man. What a horrible lead role as Nancy. What a horrible decision to just make all these decisions. I mean, it all came down to the decisions of who's going to play Nancy, what is she going to say, how is she going to say it. And I guess nobody was watching the film as they were editing it and distributing it because, my gosh, I mean, there's a lot that went wrong here. Like, there was no effort in these roles at all, except for, like I said, Quentin Smith. So all in all, I don't mean to feel like make myself look like like I'm never pleased with anything. Like I like to just complain about a lot of things. But guys, listen, if you've never watched this movie before, or if you have, you will completely understand where I'm coming from my perspective when you watch this film. At the end of the day, it all just comes down to simply bad writing, bad acting, not enough creative decisions on what Freddy, this new version of Freddy is like. Simply taking a lot of original stuff, reshooting it, but with horrible CGI compared to better practical effects. And overall, just giving us a great slasher movie. I mean, you could have even at least made it a great slasher. It feels completely like a knockoff, like a fan film that was made by 8th graders. And unfortunately, this is the last movie that we ever had in this franchise until whenever they decide to give us another, because Freddy is just waiting. He deserves that better movie, that better sequel, whoever can play him better. Obviously, Robert Englund's not going to come back, but we need somebody who could just fill those roles in again. Maybe Jackie Earle Haley again. Like I said, I think he did fine. It's not his fault. It's the way they wrote him. So maybe even with him, he could come back and we could have one hell of a sequel. You know, don't bring back Rooney Mara, that's for sure. But still, just please, New Line, or whoever owns the rights, please hear my prayer. Please. Well, that's it, everybody. In a couple days, I will post my ranking of all the Nightmare on Elm Street films from worst to best, and that is it. We are done with this film series. I mean, I could also do like a tier list of like all my favorite kills. I'll think about that one though, but that's a lot. But as far as what's my next plan to finally end this series, that'll be it. And then I will be announcing what will be the next review series next week. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember, you could be spending time with your girlfriend and getting a job, but you could also be watching The Movie Wizard. I have to really work on that line.
Living Hollister, a boy like no other, love sipping beer and raising hell with his brothers. On the
We got 6 more minutes to... Barbecue bacon burger.